on this week's Prop Show, we've got Debbie Franklin, and she's going to be talking about why some valuers make appalling branch managers, why PropTech could be a distraction but also a cure, and employing millennials in a state agency. So welcome to the show, Debbie!
Robbie!
Hi, Internet. Welcome, Debbie.
Welcome, Debbie. Welcome to the
Nice
PropShow.
So, Debbie, you've worked in a state agency now for over 25 years, going from lettings, and you've gone all the way up from the ground floor all the way up to being a big wig, big in the game. And just recently left Landrews as what was your job title?
I was head of multi-channel fulfillment.
What?
I had the title, the longest title on the
Really long
business card in
business
the company.
So what did you actually do there?
I was responsible for researching technology and then implementing it through.
So basically, you were in charge of receiving all the PropTech sales pitches.
Yes, I got a lot.
But also some good ones as well.
Lots of good ones. Yeah.
What's your favourite PropTech?
Yeah.
Favourite PropTech? There's two. That's Fixed Flow.
Oh,
facts.
Hello, Raj.
Right.
Fixed Flow block.
There you go, eh?
Excellent.
And Good Lord.
Oh, no!
Ah.
Good
Lord.
Lord. Good stuff. Yeah, we've been seeing them recently, haven't we?
Yes. Yeah.
London.
Hello, good Lord.
Yeah, the office was cool as well. Like
It's
good
cool.
vibes.
Cool office. Yeah,
Yeah.
there a couple of
Yeah,
times.
So while we're talking about Fixed Flow,
So, Krista.
cheers one down for the
Oh, let's put the glasses on.
yet again.
Yeah.
Wonderful! Okay, thanks, Wando. And also, these, Debbie, are your Yondell socks.
Thank
so
you very
please
much.
take them away.
Pair.
They'll be good for your wellies.
Yeah.
Good for your wellies.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Do you all drive tractors in the south?
No, drink cider.
Unbelievable. Well, do you know what? As we've got Debbie here and we've got some really good questions to ask her, why don't we ask the Prop Show?
Ooh.
Right, Fez on.
Tell you what, mate, you're going straight in. You're
Straight in, on the ball.
You're like
okay.
a tramp on chips.
So, this is a PC show. So, why do, Debbie, some valuers make poor branch managers?
Because because very often they're not people orientated from the point of view of coaching and developing people.
Okay.
So if you're the branch manager, your success will come through others.
Yes.
So you've got to be responsible for setting aside time to coach, develop and train those people.
Yeah.
If you're not prepared to do that, if you're the sort of the really good lister and you love going out, meeting the people and bringing the business in, but you don't want to spend the time, and it could be quite a bit of time if you've got new team and things like that, and it never stops. So you've got to set aside that time.
What motivates valuers who are damn good valuers to go and be branch managers? Is it the money, the kudos?
It can be a combination. It depends on the people, but it quite often, and I've had people come in and I've interviewed them, and they want the status, they want the flashy car, you know, that type of thing. You've got to, if you want that job, you've got to basically be about people, about developing people in your teams.
I guess it's like teachers and nurses who get like the best in their school or hospital, so they get promoted and they become managers of nurses and teachers, and they miss the stuff they love doing, and they're not quite sure where to go with the new role.
It's the Peter principle, isn't it? I've seen it many times. You progress in your job to as good as you can get. So what advice would you give to both bosses and valuers who are, you know, thinking, well, I'm a bit out of my depth, or well, from both points of views? Because you've been there and done that.
I think if you're the valuer and you want to progress, sit down with your manager, sit down with other managers, talk to them, ask them what the job is actually like. So you've got a clear understanding of what it's all about, and so that you know what you're letting yourself in for, and actually whether you're going to enjoy it. So there's no point in doing a job you don't enjoy.
And you're not going to put your all into it, are you? You'll be a bad branch manager.
You're just not going to enjoy it, and you'll end up wanting to leave. And then actually that wouldn't have been the best for everybody. As the boss, you've got to make sure that when through your recruiting processes that you're, whether that's internally, externally, that you're making sure you're what you're looking for is what you're then going to get that person. So that's got to be quite robust.
Have you ever had a situation where you've had it quite clearly a valuer that's gone to be a manager and not enjoying it? What potential solutions do we have?
You've got a couple of solutions, because if they're very good and they're still capable of doing that, it's having an honest conversation with them and actually finding out what parts of the jobs they're liking and what parts of the job they're not, and actually getting them. And sometimes it's a delicate thing to do, because a lot of people don't want to. There's a bit, if they become a manager and then they're not good at it, there's a status bit or a pride
you
thing.
Look at Pratt, don't you?
You look at Pratt. But if you do it right, and actually, if you've got the opportunity and they're good enough and you still want them in the business because there's still lots that they can offer, then why not create some position for them where you can use some skills and then find your manager that could do all the office managing.
Talking about other positions, if you've got a really kind of good valuer or kind of negotiator or rock star, if you prefer, but they're sort of divisive, how would you handle that?
What? So kind of like they're bringing the numbers in, but they're pissing off all the staff.
Yeah. You've got to deal with it. It's no good, because you will end up losing the team around you otherwise. There's no point. You've got to deal with that. You've got to have honest conversations with people as to it, and you've got to sort out, is it a behaviour thing, as in a learnt behaviour, or is it a true behaviour? It's in here and they're never going to change, because you're never going to change what's in there.
John Paul says that from Castledine. He said there's
Shalom, John Paul.
Hi, John Paul. There is learnt behaviours and there's cultures that his company operates around beliefs and values. And he said you can change or learn some, but others you can't.
Well, then shifting forward on to that, then talking about learnt and behaviours that can change, we've asked a lot of our guests about a kind of new generation of valuers and negotiators in millennials. What do you think are kind of key things to employ millennials?
You've got to make sure that you've got the setup that suits them. In the sense, if your millennials are coming in and they're used to operating their life and any previous work on mobile phones or mobile, and you're still with hot boxes and paper and that, they won't know what to do.
No.
And you'll get frustrated. And you have to also adapt. Making sure that you've got technology there that is going to enable them to do their business, because they will go otherwise.
And they'll learn it quickly.
They'll learn it quickly.
They will.
They'll pick it
How
up.
do you motivate them?
Yeah, how do you motivate them?
Motivate them. You've got to, I think, motivating anybody. Free food.
Big bags,
It's not
avocados.
all about free food and free beer.
It isn't.
I'm a millennial then.
I'm here.
It isn't, Debbie, but a lot of people who've been on the show and we've sort of asked them this question have said that it's not all about cash for millennials.
No, they're very much. It's very much about experiences or time.
Yeah.
Time. I think people are realising that time is so precious, and therefore you've got to design any schemes for them by appealing to what they actually want.
Yes.
So what do you know? So if you've got commission schemes. Motivating anybody, it's got to be something that motivates them. Something that actually appeals to them. So you've got to ask them, ask the staff, and find out what would suit them. Because your pot or whatever you're going to pay is still going to be the same, but you might just pay it in a different way.
Yeah, that's true.
Debbie came up with something quite interesting. Is that she said that when having a commission structure, she almost gave choice to the staff, where some of it was money, some of it was days off, some of it was experiences.
Well, I was just about to pick up on there, the fact that, because I can't remember who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, but they said that millennials, as a generic stroke of the brush, have all resigned themselves to the fact that they might not ever get on the property ladder, especially in the London area and south. So they're looking for other things, and they're happy to be rental generation for as long as they live, and maybe inherit mum and dad's when they go. But they are motivated by, I've got my money for my rent, but what else can I experience, like the travelling or the the days out?
It's not necessarily. It is those experiences. There's those days out, those spa days. whatever.
Innovative team building time.
Do you think we as bosses in a estate agency recognise the millennials and how to motivate them, or we've just rubbish at it?
No, I don't think we do. I think we're a lot of people, and I've fallen into the trap where often you think, I was motivated by that, they should be motivated by it, but that's not the case. So that's why you need to...
Because, you roll clock back 25 years ago when I were a lad, it was kind of...
30, 45
I wasn't going to say, I was going to be polite.
25 years. He's dreaming.
Here you go. One man struggle. Should drop that in.
Drop that in just for a minute.
This is what Chris does before we officially roll the cameras for one of his very serious interviews.
In a land before time. One man struggle. One man struggle against the world, against purple bricks online and cheap fees. In a world with online agents, one high street agent came and took the world. High fees, low withdrawal rates. This man, one agent, one struggle against the world. In a land before time, in a land before purple bricks, in a land before Rightmove and Zoopla, this man, one struggle, one man, in a land before time, in a land before sale boards. Great. Okay, here we go.
It's good, isn't it? That's what he does.
It's so good.
Okay. Where was I? So
go back.
Rudely interrupted. I can't remember.
Millennials and incentivising.
Yeah, sorry. Roll the clock back 20 years and you were expected to get in there at 7:30 in the morning, and if you were still there at 8 o'clock, you were doing all right.
Yeah.
You can't expect these youngsters to do that anymore, can you?
We don't need to, though. We've said this, haven't we, Debbie? We've had other guests say this. We don't need to be in the office all the time. You don't, because the world's changed, hasn't it?
You're rolling it off.
You've got one of these, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's this, Christopher?
It's the best piece of PropTech in the world.
And it's also the
remote control to people's lives.
That's correct.
Exactly.
But yeah, so with this and paired with a laptop, there isn't any need.
They can work from anywhere. So, and actually...
Should we have flexi time?
Yeah, flexi time.
I think so.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because we quite often... Our customers are want to do things in the time that suits them.
Exactly.
But we're so often, and I was looking for a house myself recently.
Yeah.
It's we can't do that after that time. Can't do that after.
Yeah.
Time. And I'm thinking, well,
but you know what?
So
there should be more
why not?
evening opportunities.
Evening, and some people prefer to work earlier in the day and go off and do something later. Some people like to work. You get your morning and afternoon type people.
You do actually,
but I don't see this. I like with shop work or bar work or whatever. When I was a youngster. 10 or 15 years ago. 10 or 15 years ago. When I used to work in a supermarket or shop when I was at university.
It's really 20, you should put Grecian 2000.
You worked a split shift. So you would, you might go in the afternoon and then you do some evening. Yeah. And actually,
go to the pub in between.
Certainly running our business, you're contactable 24 hours a day through Facebook or social media or email. Do you think that should be a strategy for some new agencies?
I think it should be. I think it's about flexibility. I also, and into that mindset, I would also pull in sort of returning mums and things like that. I had
Steve Wayne's.
I have a real problem with this. There's a lot of people in the business that won't take in women back into the business. And my view is if they're good at their job and you've invested all this money in them, they will actually come in and work just as well and just as hard as.
I think so,
And actually, I had people as part-time managers that worked so many hours, so many days in the office, but the other days they would answer their emails, answer their phones, and deal with issues, and they weren't actually getting paid those days.
Oh,
because
really?
they cared about the job.
They were doing it.
They were doing it because they wanted that office to be successful.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Ask the Prop Show. Should we find out what
Steve says?
Yeah.
Steve, what you got to say for this week?
Steve says! Social media rocks.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah,
good.
He's always got a nugget of wisdom.
Got a great
back
catalogue of wisdom.
Yeah.
So that's the end of that's the end of our
We might have had that one before.
That's the end of our spot show. Have you got any more questions for Debbie?
PropTech.
Oh yeah.
Distraction or a good thing in the business? Because I know we were talking before we started the show, and you're saying some managers of a certain generation, the technology is confusing. Yet Debbie was saying if used in the right way and trained, maybe using millennials, that it can actually, increase efficiency, productivity, conversion rates, all kinds of stuff. I mean, especially with like your fixed flow, that's a great, I mean, we don't use it, we're not estate agents, but, I spoke to a lot of people who've used that, and that seems like why wouldn't you have it?
And things like Good Lord and Yomdil and
Repeat.
Home
I mean, there's quite a few, isn't there?
There's quite a lot, but there are a lot. But I think we've spoken obviously over the last sort of couple of years to lots of different people across the industry, lots of different events, and there is a sort of stigma around PropTech that Chris says that a lot of it's there to solve problems that don't exist, and others have said that we love all this stuff, but we just can't get anything to talk to each other. I mean, what's your view?
There is a lot of stuff out there, and it is you have to decide as an agent what does your business going to look like? Your strategy, what's your business, and then find the technology that's going to help you achieve that in the future. Don't ignore it. Don't put your head in the sand, because so many people are going, PropTech, it's here today, gone tomorrow.
But it's not.
And at the end of the day, it's technology, and it will evolve.
Were you saying if used correctly and you choose the right bit of kit, you'll talk to your clients easier?
When I looked at any technology, I had 3 measures in the sense that it had to do at least one of those measures, if not 2. And it was it going to improve efficiencies for the staff? So remove, sort of processes that were really time consuming. Would it improve any processes for our customers? And we forget customers in this, and so many estate agents do. It's all about us rather than actually what do the customers want, what do they actually expect, and what are they going to expect in the future, or is it some technology that can bring extra income in? So those two for your staff, for your customers, could be all about efficiency. So you might have to spend out a little bit and invest, but you'll get the returns in the efficiency.
We can call that the Debbie law, the Debbie PropTech law.
Thinking that.
But conversely, do you think that a lot of people hide behind it? I've got this bit of tech, so I don't need to do this.
Yes, there is. We still can't get away from the fact, and you're never going to get away from the fact that we're in a people business. So technology is an enabler to do your job, but the empathy, the personal skills, all of those sorts of things, the relationships can't be built solely through that type of thing, and the empathy bit's very hard to communicate with that. It's more of an information tool and a central, modes of communication in that way.
Just to cut in, we were in Birmingham the other week, and we spoke to the famous Troy Malcolm,
the actual famous Troy Malcolm.
Stephen Brown's masterclass.
Speaking of, why don't we have just a quick chat with Chris and Troy.
Troy, what makes the UK so different in estate agency terms compared to Australia?
Listen, I think there's a lot of synergies and there's a lot of differences. The synergies are that our main focus as estate agents or real estate professionals in Australia is the fact that we deal with people. Our business is actually about people. It's not about the transaction of real estate. And if you substituted the vehicle of cars or shoes or any kind of retail outlet, the whole thing about relationships and nurturing clients and creating raving fans is paramount to the success of every estate agent.
Do you think UK is too transactional? Get the house sold and then forget about it?
I think around the world, estate agents are too transactional. Absolutely. So many and so often we hear about people purchasing a property, they go through the settlement period, they own the home, and then they never hear from another person.
I mean, and the stats are only 12 to 14% of people go back to their original agent. That's awful, isn't it?
It's horrible, but at the same time, I think that creates a great opportunity for a session like today, is to really understand what are the dynamics of people and how do we leverage those personal relationships and develop those client rapport relationships that we can really create a lifetime length of clients and pipeline.
Yeah, but let's be frank, if people are only moving on average 15 or 16 years, that's an awful lot of work for not much reward in 15 years' time.
I see it as more of an opportunity. I don't think it's a lot of work to kind of keep in touch with someone on a monthly basis and visit them every 6 months. I think that's a great opportunity to not only build a personal brand, but also to become an attraction agent.
Okay, so what should agents be doing in those every 6 months? Because in America they send birthday cards. If you did that in Britain, they'd think you're crazy.
Absolutely. You don't probably need to go to that extreme. I think an anniversary card on the purchase of the home for a past client, for a vendor, but just catching up and letting them know what's been happening around the area. So many and so often people don't know. They get caught in their little bubble and they don't realise what are the transactions that are happening around them.
What's selling?
What absolutely. What properties are coming on the market? What's selling? What new opportunities there are? Whether it's a new land development or sale. What are the opportunities for them to really create value add in everything they do with their clients?
I've seen some agents in Britain and America and Australia talk about the local property market, talk about the locality and why their location makes so much difference. Do you approve of those sort of things?
Absolutely. I think location will always set an estate agent apart, but they need to fit the location they're working in. So they need to have the same attributes. And we talk a lot about being hyper-local knowledge experts. And that means being part of the community, giving back to the community, and really building that trust with the clients.
Well, there's a Luke Sinclair in Britain. He's taken on a concept called the digital mayor concept,
yes,
where he's going around interviewing people at coffee shops, getting involved with the community. What one thing would you say to UK estate agents that they could do differently in 2019 in this tough market to ensure that 2019 and beyond is a successful year?
Yeah, focus on what you can do online. Online is a huge opportunity for every single estate agent, and you've got to think, most of the brands out there, most of the individual agents, they may do one video every 6 months, but it's actually the consistency and the frequency that sets them apart. Think about this. If you're an estate agent and you want to be known by someone, you can't just do one thing and think that they're going to have that opportunity to think, you know what, Chris was the best agent, I'm going to call him up and have that conversation. There needs to be consistency and frequency. So my best recommendation would be consistent online. Have a presence and make sure you're delivering value add in everything you do. Don't think about the transaction, think about the relationship you're developing.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
But anyway, he was a nice guy, was he not?
Well, what I was going to say is that, as you saw in that interview, Troy agrees it's a people business.
Absolutely. 100%.
And you spoke about sending, some estates in America or Australia send birthday cards, which may be a bit too much for the... But Troy was saying, well, why can't you just send an anniversary card at least once a year on the day they purchased or bought their house or sold the house, just to reconnect with them? Because, I mean, I don't know what the stat was, only 14 or 15% of people actually go back to their original agent, which is either because they've done a bad job or they've just forgotten about them in the 10, 12, 15 years.
I think estate agents are very transactional. Let's get the job done, let's get the sold. But in reality, in America and especially Australia, you almost employ an agent for life.
Troy said at that event, Stephen Brown's conference, that he'd sold the same house 3 times.
Yes.
So every time the same person come back to him because
and he knows about the history of it.
And when obviously it's going to come back to the market and he's pitching for the new business, if it's obviously the people who've had bought it through him, so he's already got an in. But obviously they know that he knows the history of that property.
Interesting though, I posed the question that if people only move every 15 years, that's an awful long time to wait. But then he said no. You've got to recommend people.
He said the other way again though, because he said people are only moving in 15 years' time. That's your lever for your buyer to say, look, this house last came on the market 15 years ago. If you don't buy it, people will love it so much they won't come back on the market for another 15 years. So actually that gets the price to a point where you want to sell it.
There you go.
Online versus high street, Debbie. Thoughts?
The high street is not dead. It's not. It's going to be there. In what format? It will maybe look a little bit different. I think it'll be a lot less.
Online's dead, isn't it? Russell closed eMove, and
I think it's still going to be there in some format. Exactly what it all looks like going forward. I think it'll evolve. I think there'll be version 2 in a sense. We've had sort of. Version 1.
Even the shopping outlets will evolve.
You've got version 2. But I think what the high street can learn from online is how they have used some technology in some areas of the business, onboarding their customers, communicating with their customers in terms of information about, sort of how the sales going, etc. That type of thing. But the booking of a viewing, booking of a valuation, all of that can be done at a customer's convenience.
Well, that's what you went back to before.
And actually, as a high street, it's all about when we're open, when we can do it. It should be turned around about when the customer wants it.
Well, we had that with Matt Wells from North Allison came down, was on the show, and he did some stuff with mobiles and tech from the back of a boat in Catalonia. And then we had Nick Neal in from UMove. Cheers for the mugs, Nick. So we had Nick Neal in from UMove, and they are part of Martin and Co, aren't they?
Property franchise.
Yeah, property franchise group. But they're sort of
hybridy.
There's lots of versions of what a hybrid agent is, but they are online, but they don't have a fee until the end. So they still have
still like a
still effectively that way. So they've taken some of the good things about online and put them into practice.
Yeah.
But obviously, then you see the things like with your not eMove, sorry, and that kind of falling out. Actually,
I just don't think that's a good business model. Like, if you gave me £900 to do some work,
and
I was like, okay, yeah, cool, thanks.
No drama.
Put it in my account, get some money and the interest, and then you say, well, have you done that work yet? Oh no, I'll get around to that.
No, it's deferred payment.
But
you're liable for the cost, but you don't pay it up front.
Well, you do for online.
Some do.
Some don't. Most don't.
Most don't.
No.
Purple bricks.
You are entering into an agreement.
Yeah.
So no cash leaves your account.
No, but you're entering into an agreement. You will pay them in 10 months' time. That's what I believe is the case.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is the part of the show I look silly because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, you can. I think you can still pay up front or do the deferred. You've got choices, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you've got
Interesting.
Yeah.
There you go.
Speaking of, should we have a bit more of your chat from Russell Quinn?
Just a little one, yeah. I mean, by the time this show comes out, they'll all be out. 11 questions I asked him, and to be honest,
just before we start that, so the mum at the school gates that we spoke about a few weeks ago that lost 900 quid. How did she lose 900 quid with eMove going bust?
Okay.
She still has to pay them after they go bust.
Some models you physically paid it up front.
Right.
Some you become liable up front, but you don't have to pay it.
Okay, so there are okay.
So all of those, the Russell Quirk interviews are on your YouTube channel.
On my YouTube channel, and
no,
so quite enlightening. Quite enlightening.
Well, you said a lot of people were not angry with him, but like, oh yeah, let's see what he's got to say for himself. And actually, once they've now seen him like bare all and be quite honest about stuff, they're like,
very honest.
oh, actually, he's...
I was really surprised is the love that his former employees gave to him.
Really, yeah.
I saw that on the comments.
Should we have a bit of a bit more of that interview?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So what would you say to all the staff of eMove that have just lost their jobs just before Christmas?
Well, the same that applies to the shareholders, the customers, and the creditors. Look, I'm sorry, of course I am. The biggest regret in all of this is the human cost, of course. So I'm regretful and apologetic. I mean, and actually, look, the customers are coming.
Genuinely, or just
Yeah, no, of course, genuinely. And the customers were caught in the middle of this. They obviously didn't know what was coming. The staff did. I mean, I stood up in front of the staff every week for the last 4 or 5 weeks to tell them very, very clearly what was happening, how we were trying to sell the business, how many participants we had lined up, and what was happening. And
because that was done very much in public, wasn't it? It was almost
Well, I didn't do it in public, but of course stuff gets leaked.
It does.
So
when you almost like you're dirty washing.
Yeah, but we had 140 staff, and a lot of them would kind of dial in because they were remote LPAs, and of course people were leaking stuff to Ros Renshaw and Graham Norwood left, right, and centre. Look, that's fine. I knew that was a risk, but the alternative was just to keep quiet and not tell the staff what was going on. So I took the opposite approach, which was to be very open and honest with them, and to face them. I didn't say, I didn't do a David Cameron and sort of do my bit and then turn around and walk off. I stood there for as long as necessary and answered every single question from every member of staff. And also, when the question was asked at the end of October, beginning of November, bearing in mind the last payday was October the 31st, first week of November, second week of November, third week of November, fourth week of November, when I was asked the question, will we be paid, I had to say, I don't know, and I can't guarantee that you will be. And if as a consequence you feel that you should go out and start looking for an alternative position, then you must do that. I was very clear, very, very clear. Now,
Did you lose?
I lost. Yeah, of course I did. I lost. I haven't been paid since the staff have been paid. So I've lost salary. I've lost, I guess, from an employment contract point of view, notice, redundancy, and so on. So I've lost in that respect. But what I've lost predominantly is what I set out to achieve, which was an exit for my family. So I now don't have that exit. So I've never taken money off the table from eMove. I've never sold a share. I've never taken a loan or a lump of cash. I've taken a salary eventually, not year 2, year 1 or year 2, but eventually, a small salary year 3, 4, slightly bigger in year 5, 6, and so on. But I mean, I've lost, I mean, immeasurably, but lots of people have lost here. Creditors have lost. Customers have lost, of course, because some of them have paid up front, and then obviously we've not been able to fulfil the service, and of course staff have lost. But look, the one thing I would say, despite my genuine regret and my remorse in that regard, is that kind of still brings a bit of a lump. Is when you stand up in front of your staff and you say that you might not get paid, and they still come in the next day, and the next day, and the next day. That's incredible.
Have you had any contact with members of staff since it all went belly up?
Yeah, loads. So many of them have got other jobs, thankfully. And most of them I've been in touch with one way or the other, either to help them with stuff relating to the administration or the administrator, or just to kind of, I don't know, give, for what it's worth, a bit of advice and a bit of a kind of helping hand. So yeah, of course. So look, the whole thing was, a disaster, and a complex disaster, of course, and very regretful. But if anyone thinks that much could have been done, apart from changing decisions from 6 months, 12 months, 2 years ago, am I regretful? Yes, completely, and apologetic, sincerely. And am I ashamed, I guess is my question. No, I'm not. I'm not ashamed of what I tried to build, how I tried to help change the industry and make it better, how I employed hundreds of people, how I tried to did get shareholders on board with a view, of course, originally to them sharing in the spoils of the benefit of the journey. Did we achieve things? Yeah, we absolutely did. So I'm not ashamed of what's happened. And look, we have to accept that, particularly when it comes to startup businesses, growth businesses, let alone all the businesses that we're seeing failing in the high street, left, right and centre, HMV, Maplin, Toys R Us, House of Fraser, Small Bone Kitchens and so on. Look, failure is a part of life.
Because to be honest with you, everyone seems to be shooting at you. Property industry, your name's up.
Yeah, but it will be, because
no one seems to be shooting the guy from HMV and things like that.
Well, the CEO of HMV resigned 6 months before the business went into administration, so I didn't do that. I could have done that. I had a very, very well-known consultant that you would know telling me 3 months before the administration, just jump out, just get out, just leave it. I wouldn't do that, so I stayed there till literally the last minute of that business, and fought, daily in the last, days and weeks to try and secure a deal with one of the many buyers we were talking to. So, and I was determined that I would try and do that. And the deal we were trying to do was that whoever came in and bought the business, and then this was right at the last minute. So, originally.
Don't mention names, but was it 50-50?
So there were about 12 people interested in buying the business. So businesses and individuals, some of whom you would definitely know. But all of them in the end decided that, some of them, of course, for whatever reason, they didn't want to pursue that. But most of them that decided not to progress the sale pre-administration decided to do so because they didn't want to be on the hook for the salary for November, which was about £430,000. And they also didn't want to be on the hook because everybody was on a minimum of a month's notice. They'd have to then pay the salaries for December. So even if they decided in their own wisdom to get rid of everybody, they would have been on the hook for £1 million. So as a consequence, the individuals that were involved all decided to wait. Most of those individuals have now bid for the business in one form or another in administration, and the business has now been sold. But I can't tell you who to.
Thank you very much.
There it goes.
There you go.
Fantastic.
We must be at the end of the show now.
We are. Debbie, thanks a million for making the journey from Brazil to come and see us. It's been great having you on.
It's been great being here.
Obviously, if there's anyone keen to come on the show, we'd love to have you. Have
you got any questions for Debbie as well?
Debbie, message us on the Facebook, and we can put them to her, or you can.
Debbie's a bit of a freelancer, going out there helping estate agents with PropTech and implementation and training. So. Yeah.
Great. Well, if you want to get hold of Debbie on LinkedIn, you can find her here. No expense spared on special effects.
Well, you can just type the name into LinkedIn.
Yeah, but I've just given them
That's a great idea.
I've given them
but.
Look, I've done it now.
We can't click this link though. Look.
Right.
Let's go home.
Should we go to the pub?
Yeah. Thanks a million, Debbie. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
So that's it for the show. So thanks for watching and shalom.